Hello, welcome to another episode of Penetrate Radio. I am Lucy Baldwin, and I'm here today with Laila Matthews.
Hey,
We're going to talk today about owning your monsters and just,
loving monsters. Just being cool with monsters in yourself and others.
yeah, because rejecting monsters, pushing away, hiding from, pretending they don't exist, pretending they're not possible within us, does not actually make them go away, despite popular belief. I don't even think it's that's what people believe. I think it's our unquestioned tendency to try to avoid it.
Well, it's because fear begets fear. And all monsters' power comes from fear. And fear begets fear. I was just thinking about how I feel like the best overarching metaphor for what we're talking about here, and I mean, maybe we don't even get to the end of this, but just generally speaking, the best metaphor I can come up with for this is that all demons, all devils are fallen angels. They're misunderstood, or, like I said, fear begets fear. They are angels who have become either afraid of themselves or afraid of something to a degree where their angelic quality of peace and beneficence is mutated into putrid hate and like radiating fear and disgust and monstrousness and imbalance. And so the only way to restore this is to remove the charge, remove the fear, to come to understand the motivation, maybe the like heroes, the anti-hero's journey of how the monster came to be the way that it is, or what positive purpose the monstrous qualities are attempting to fulfill, and reconcile that monster either within or without into at least a neutral set of skills, you know?
Yeah, because I think that the people that you're interacting with in your day-to-day life, the people that you personally know, you yourself, it always starts with good intentions. We have these monsters within us, but they are born from good intentions and can develop into toxic is a really popular word, but they can develop, they can sour. And we can take certain things too far, take good intentions too far, be not strategic, and that's how monsters are born. So they're not coming, there's not an evil seed underneath them. There's actually, if you go down into them, there's a seed of love and, yeah, good intentions. It's like, choosing that, owning that as an axiom. We can't prove it, but it is true. And if you investigate it enough, like Layla and I have, you will find that that is 100% the truth. So just unpacking that. But you can never find that seed if you're just in full rejection.
Totally, yes. And, when Lucy and I have taught on the subject of embracing monsters in the past, we have trotted out classic monsters like vampires, like ogres, like swamp monsters, like
Angry mob.
zombies, like angry mobs, yeah, lynch mobs, like, and there we begin into like verging into the archetype of the human. And so I feel like the most sensational monsters that we have a difficult time with, like sci-fi horror monsters are scary, but the really scary monsters are the ones that we ourselves become or we see in other people. I think about like, bad mom or evil stepmom or these things that we are so afraid to be. Those are the real monsters that we are called to embrace in others and in ourselves, or at least like remove the charge.
Yeah, like authoritarian.
Well, I think like part of what I want people to have, just generally, I guess, in life, is I really want people to have a greater experience of peace internally. And I know from conversations with lots of human beings, both professionally and personally, that human beings are, on the whole, very preoccupied with the negative judgments that other people may or may not have about them. And more than like trying to solve the problem of monstrousness in the world, I really want people to experience more peace at the notion of being perceived in a ill, yucky, monstrous way, because 99% of the time you are not actually, that's a bad take, and you don't need to care if you are seen that way. But when there is so much fear invested in the archetype that is being thrown about, it's very difficult to not care. So, Lucy, should we start sharing some ways of reconciling with these monsters? Some exercises that we've helped people with in the past as examples?
Well, I think one of the most powerful things, I think I just shared this in my last podcast, my other podcast, the seven. But it's still the most power. I still think it's the best exercise is to essentially make a list of the archetypes that you're most disgusted by, like, control freak, manipulator, selfish, whatever they are, whatever those, like, you could think of them as ways of being, just whatever qualities that you are most just like, that is what is bad, because we all have certain ideas of like what is the most bad, and they're unique to us, and then taking each one of those and doing it like almost a form of inquiry where you're just like, okay, how have I done this? What's one way that I have had this? Because it's, first of all, there's so much gray area. What does it mean to be a manipulator? Where is the line between like being like salesy and playful and trying to like bring somebody
Influential.
in,
Yeah.
influential? That's, yes. And manipulative, just playing with, considering that it's all about how you look at it. It's all about how you perceive it and what you're looking for. And we contain the full spectrum of everything, especially depending on the angle that you take.
100%. What you just said, like, I feel like once the list of archetypes is made, I think it's important to write next to the list us like neutral quality of that archetype. So I'm thinking of like maybe the archetype, the taboo monstrous archetype is like bitch. What does a bitch do? And the thing that just came to my mind is like a bitch is like outraged. When I think about what it means to be a bitchy woman, it's like you're upset and you're showing it. I just got a dog and she's a girl and she barks and I'm like, ugh, unpleasant. And I'm like, okay, that's what's going on when people don't like a bitch, because she's barking. So outrage, a bitch is outraged, and that's what's upsetting about her. Okay, but so when people can call you a bitch and it shuts you up, then you have lost access to outrage. You then censor yourself and you can't have outrage. And what's the archetype we were just talking about? Manipulator. So if you are so afraid of the archetype of manipulator and you absolutely will not be called a manipulator, then you lose access to the power of being influential. And so I think it can be helpful to like see what it is that we're missing out on by having such an outsized reaction. And I think it helps us find the middle ground that you're talking about. We see that like these are demonized names for what actually exists on a spectrum where there's a middle ground of reason to have this quality.
Yeah, and so often it's our fear of the label, our fear of like, "Ugh, I can't be seen as that," even to myself, that shuts us off from our full capacity and full spectrum of expression. And I know for me, it's like really liberating to just be like, okay, I'm manipulative. Okay, I'm a bitch. And not to become a bitch, but just like be willing to be seen that way, be willing to be labeled as that monster in order to release that charge, release the fear. So it can't be held over your head. So it
Right.
can't control you.
Precisely. And so that you are not also controlled by that word or that judgment on others. You are not like oversensitive into like, oh, the manipulation. Oh. You're not freaking out because you're like, oh, actually, that's a reasonable and normal amount of influence. And also because I am allowed to be a bitch and put up a fight, I can say no and have boundaries. So I'm not afraid of the influence of others because I'm not inhibited in my own ability to have a boundary. Do you know what I mean? So once we're cool with the monsters and ourselves and others, we are free to just simply relate in a more peaceful, straightforward fashion, which is, I think, part of what I was like, world changing, monster eliminating, world peace potential of just getting rid of the unnecessary fear. Because when we are like less triggered unnecessarily, we have more availability and capacity to notice what is actually really not okay, and to respond instead of simply reacting.
Yeah. And also, when we see these things in others, people that we love, people that we care about, we're able to see the seed of love underneath. I realize how corny that sounds, but we're able to see, like, oh, you're just trying to persuade me to do this thing with you because you love me or you need something, and that's okay. And I can't, maybe you can't give it to them, but we don't take so much offense. We don't take so much, we don't have to put negativity onto them. We don't have to, because with these monsters, there's always this undertone of bad intentions, this assumption that we apply of bad intentions when we frame it in terms of the monster. Manipulator implies bad intentions, whereas influential implies good intentions. And so if we can receive people as trying to influence us, we will have a better experience. Our relationships will be better because we won't be like, "Oh, you're trying to manipulate me. How dare you?" And you know what I mean? We could just avoid all the drama there and just be like, "Oh, that's so nice. No, thank you."
Correct. And additionally, like, we don't have to be I feel like we also then disempower people who would be manipulating us, because people who are capable of manipulation can't be resisted. And so we play into, I guess create is too strong, but we are part of creating a narrative where we are somewhat powerless to the manipulation. And if we can stand in like centered, accurate perception, even of the worst, someone else's best intention that is not the best for us, right? I can see that that person really thinks that's the best thing for them, and I also have no way to be part of it for my own good. We can just see that plainly, clear. We can maybe even also perceive that that person might be dangerous. And we don't need to freak. We just need to behave accordingly because we've accurately perceived it from a state of non-fear judgment as best as we are able, and just acted accordingly and moved either in the direction of. So even if there are people that we trust that have yucky behaviors, or people who we really should not trust who have monstrous behaviors, we can respond accordingly to the entity beneath.
It's like we have the wherewithal to make to truly receive it as it is, because we don't have this veil of like overreaction to everything. We can take it
Right.
in and actually have a centered process of just have a more maybe accurate, maybe like less biased. But this I want to go
Sensationalized.
sensationalized. That's such a good word for it. I'm sitting here like I know there's a word and it's not coming to me either.
Well, I'm so glad that the word came to me, because before, I just want to say one thing on the topic of monsters, because I feel like we've been talking a little bit about how like we should get over it and like and not be so sensationalized, right? We were just talking about how to desensationalize monsters. I really want to say that you are absolutely allowed to be sensationalized by monsters. You are absolutely allowed to. But do please lean in, maybe, if you wish to have a little more peace and fun in the sensation. Just do lean into just recognizing your own participation in amping up the sensation of the thing. And that's fun. I get it. I do the same thing. I was trying to do it earlier, but then I realized that the thing that I was trying to get sensation from just like was numb. And it just didn't work anymore, you know?
I wasn't participating, Layla. I'm sorry.
I know you weren't, so that's why. So that's the power, right? There wasn't any more sensation to be had from that anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What we're saying is have fun and enjoy it, because it is fun in to get like what's going on with this. But if you're going to do that, do it from a place of empowered place rather than from a victim place of like, oh, this person did this thing to me. It's like, Oh, this is sort of like fun and because we want you to enjoy it. That's the whole point. That's what all of this is about. For you to have the ability to take anything that comes up in life and be able to make it into a positive experience for yourself. I mean, that is like true fucking power. And I just want to go on a little side tangent here. I hope you'll come with me, Layla. about
I love a side tangent.
narcissism because
Like the big bad monster.
well, I feel like this right now is the big bad monster. And I
100%.
just see so many people labeling other people as narcissists. And I just can't really get down with it for the most part. I think that I don't want to go into a whole side tangent about psychology. um,
Yeah.
and
I
like
mean, neither of
personality
us are
disorder.
psychologists. I don't have the DSM standard of narcissism in my mind. And
Right.
most people don't.
Become like a very popular thing that people just diagnose everybody with if, don't see it helping a lot of people. Like I don't think it's helpful to just be like that person's a narcissist because I just think this is a good example because it's a very popular monster right now is the narcissist. And
Hmm.
what?
Well, I mean, I do want to say I very much understand that people get involved with others with narcissistic qualities in deep and intimate ways that are scary and like truly disempowering, like financial and physical abuse. And I do understand that that's a dark circle of human hell that real human beings are living through now, have lived through, and, will find themselves in again. So, like, I do want to say, just with sensitivity, I understand that it's very rough and damage is done. And in my experience of human beings, which of course is not complete, is very small, actually. In my experience of human beings, the narcissist and the codependent exist together as a little particle, like a proton and electron. They are a unit. I have encountered scary people on the narcissistic side, and I have also encountered people who really scare me on the codependent side. And I feel like the scariness of the codependent side doesn't get nearly as much press as the scariness of the narcissistic side. Usually there's less violence, but anyway, the point is they exist together and they attract one another and they can't exist without one another. So if we're talking about the evils of narcissism, I think it's important that we also are willing to look at the downsides of codependency.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people project narcissism because there's a real thing in our culture right now. Like you're not supposed to be self-oriented. You're not supposed to be like we're supposed to be very like oriented around other people and serving other people and supporting other people. And there's a lot about putting other people first and people, for a long time, I felt like everybody I knew was just always making such a big deal about how they're such an overgiver. And it's just, oh, they're just such an overgiver. And that's a form of virtue signaling. And then they're like, oh, but that must be a narcissist because they're just taking. And this is like what you're talking about. And I just think that most
Yeah, I
people are
mean,
not.
I like to, in that equation, I like to think of the great poet, philosopher, enlightened saint, Walt Whitman, who I'm going to paraphrase in his poetry, says, "Never was there more beginning or ending. Never was there more living or dying. Never was there more giving or taking," right? Like there's an equal amount of giving and taking. It adds up in the end, giving and taking. So if you are such an overgiver, oh, you're such an overgiver, there's got to be people who are taking more because you're giving more. You're giving a lot. So you require that there be a lot of people to take because you are sucking up a lot of the giving.
But
But then
yeah,
you judge the taking, but you require the taking in order to be able to give.
I also see this on an individual level where it's like if you're overgiving, you have to be taking somewhere unconsciously. In order to be able to overgive, you have to take from somewhere else. So I'm just
Often
like,
from yourself. but
From
maybe from
something, from
others. Yeah, right.
somebody. Yeah. And so, but if you take too much from
Mm-hmm.
yourself, you're going to have to lean on other, you're going to have to take from others in order to be able to sustain the overgiving. So there's, you may be
Mm-hmm.
consciously giving, but
Never
you're
was there
unconsciously
more
taking.
taking or giving. Never was there more living or dying. Never was there more breathing in or breathing out. It's the same. It adds up in the end. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess I have seen more like very nuanced conversations about the narcissistic behavior pattern that people are really upset about. But I do think that the reason it gets overused is because if we were to write on our little list and put narcissist on the narcissist on the list, what would we say is like some of the neutral qualities? Like self advocacy gone completely fucking insane, right? Like, or you know what I mean?
Well, I
Self
think this
self
is,
interest gone awry. So, but again, like if you are a person who is willing to have boundaries, self interest, and self like push for your agenda, then there will be people who will be like narcissist. And so that's the misusing of it is when people are using it to put down other people's self agency that they don't like for one reason or another. They don't like the person who's doing it. They don't like the way that they're doing it. It's unskillful. Maybe it is unskillful. Maybe it is coming across inconsiderate of other people. Maybe they're not wrong to be put off by the way that the self assertion is happening. So I'm not saying that like it's a completely one-sided thing, but like I think that's why it gets thrown around so much.
yeah, I definitely think that, like you said, some people are just more likely to get preyed upon. I would say just personally, I've had very limited experience with narcissists in my life. Like I just haven't met very many people that I actually thought were narcissist. And I've heard a lot of them, people that I know called narcissists, and I was just like, I don't see that. And I think that, when we're really obsessed with any given monster, especially like culturally, um, it can be really easy to sell ourselves short, to prejudge people based on, because then it's like people aren't allowed. I think it's actually important for people to take care of themselves. I think it's actually really important for people to have boundaries. I think it's really important for people to ask for what they want. And I just see how sometimes those exact qualities that I think are extremely healthy. Like I think that if you're always seeking if you're always looking for narcissism, you're going to miss out on some of the most like actually together, like healthy, like emotionally healthy people. If you see like good boundaries and self-advocacy as narcissism. And I think this is just a really like poignant example of what we're talking about, where if you're afraid of that archetype, you will not be able to be centered in just receiving people as they are.
I want to clarify. I do not think that narcissists have good boundaries. I think that narcissists have the exact same blurring of boundaries as codependents do in the opposite direction. Because the thing that makes people who behave in narcissistic fashions dangerous is that they believe that other people exist to fulfill them. And
Yeah, I don't
that's
think they
it.
do either.
There
I
is a
don't think they
loss
do
of,
either. I
but
think
so I
people
think it's
see good
the
boundaries.
self advocacy of the narcissist, the like involving and enrolling others in the plans, schemes, notions, movements, ideas, visions of like I think that anybody who basically I think one of the reasons that people are afraid of being seen is because anybody who's like standing up and saying I have something important to say is at risk of being called down, because you is at risk of being accused of being self-absorbed and self-centered and self-aggrandizing, because you are needing other people to pay attention to, enroll in, and be part of your thing. But like we said, that's actually a positive quality. Whatever that self organizing around the vision of the self, that's a positive quality that gets taken to the negative, detrimental extreme in narcissism. And I guess what I really want, yeah, what I was trying to get at is the boundaries aren't good. The self advocacy is out of control.
No, I think you were saying, and I think you're right, that narcissists don't have good boundaries. Because I was listing good boundaries. Because what I've seen is like people who have good boundaries, other people are like, oh, they must be a narcissist because
Well,
they're
they're
not doing what
selfish.
I want. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're selfish. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes. They're selfish because they don't want to be influenced by you. And there's definitely it's a monster that gets thrown around and projected on people inappropriately. People who call other people narcissists too much, because it makes me feel like they might be a scary codependent that like does other spooky stuff.
Yeah, because I've come up, like somebody really close to me was in a business partnership with somebody who I think is like probably maybe the only true like diagnosable narcissist I've maybe ever met, that I would say I really think that person like actually, if insofar as that disorder exists, I would say they maybe have it. And I came into like I never could, that person was never going to sweep me up in her thing. Like that was never going to happen because my alarm bells were just like, that's weird. And we like spat each other out so fast, right? It was never going to happen. And I think it's easy to be swept up in things. And I'm not trying to, not trying to toot my own horn, but I just think that it's more rare than we want to think. And I think that it comes from the fear of being seen as being too self-absorbed, being too selfish, being too much about ourselves. And I think a lot of people have that fear because deep down, we all know that we do put ourselves first. And I think that that's normal and healthy. I think that we have to put ourselves first, or we're setting ourselves up for extreme failure. I mean, with the exception of our kids, but it's like I do that for me. Like I put my kids before me for me. There's no way around it. If you don't put yourself first, I just don't think that's going to turn out well. And so I think that there's this fear of being seen as bad. And I just don't think that that is bad. I think that's actually healthy.
I agree. And like mature self-interest understands that taking care of relationships and other people and the world at large is self-motivatedly good thing to be a part of.
Exactly. Even as an empath, like it hurts me to see other people in pain. So I want to relieve that pain both for them but also for me. You know, it's like because it hurts me.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you for going on that side tangent with me, Laila. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not really
no.
a side tangent. It's more just like maybe the most extreme example we have right now in our culture of like a monster.
Oh yeah, a monster that can just capture, moves a lot of power and a lot of charge in the psyche. I can feel it now. I'm even like, oh, what are people going to think? Did we say the wrong things about the monster under the bed? You know what I mean? I'm like, are they going to think I'm a monster? It's a scary one. It really is.
Well, Laila, I just want to go on the record saying that I don't think that two narcissists could have as healthy a working relationship as you and I do.
I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true. Great. Phew.
Well,
do we have anything else we want to say about monsters? I guess I was just thinking about how all monsters must certainly have a prey, and like who is the prey of a monster. And I think just, really thinking about these dynamics a little bit in one's mind is good medicine.
yeah, I think the main takeaway that I have, like for me with all of this, is that you can't just reject the monster and then think that that's going to make you safe from it. That's what makes the monster so monstrous.
Well said. Precisely.
Yeah. And, you had the idea to talk about this today, Laila, and you started it by talking about, and what you did mention earlier, it is very much about what other people think. And this is where I circle back to the narcissist thing, just not to bring it back to that, but I am going to, because the whole preoccupation with with monsters in the first place is all about this selfish desire to be seen a certain way. And this is... I don't think there's
to have a
anything wrong with
pristine
that.
reputation, right?
Yeah, and that is out of self-interest, and that is okay. It is okay to care what other people think of us, and also we have to let it go a little bit. Like we have to loosen our grip on trying to control what other people think of us, because otherwise we get trapped in these monster paradigms. And also, you can never control what people think of you. Like you just never have any control over it. And when you try to control what people think of you, that again is where you start to, then you get into monster territory, because you can never control other people, and people are always going to think whatever they're going to think. They're going to hear whatever they're going to hear. And it doesn't even really matter what you say sometimes. So yeah, just realizing like it's actually more important what you think of you, because if you know that your intentions are good and you've gone into yourself and you've investigated that and you have found it to be true again and again, then when somebody accuses you of being a monster, it's just not going to affect you. You know, it's just not going to have, it's not going to carry any weight. It's not going to matter. And so then it can't have that control over you, like Layla's talking about. Thanks, Layla. This was really fun. I love talking about monsters. Is there anything else we want to share? So we have an amazing membership,
We do.
and it's an online community, and it's called Dominion, and you should totally join. We do awesome
Absolutely.
calls.
Yes.
Yeah, Layla does
Yes.
a call every month where she.
I do a once a month call, which I just call a coffee chat with me, where we have basically an open forum. So if you want to come and ask questions, you can chat with me and the other brilliant genius people doing this work in our community. So Danny does coaching calls.
Yeah, and she does this community EK thing that we made up, which is really, really, really cool. It's really fun. And we have some somatic oriented calls and a bunch of really good stuff. So come and check it out.
Yeah, we'd love to get to know you. See you
All
there.
right. See you there.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Penetrate Radio. I have a free guided